So I used a Woodcraft 10-inch salt and pepper grinder kit. There's the kit in the bag. It basically comes with the grinder at the bottom, the long stick, and that little white piece that goes into the lid, so when you turn the lid it turns the bottom. This is the first blank I made, and then when I went to turn it to shape I really screwed it up. So I drilled the hole in the cap for that thing to fit in, and that hole wasn't tight. So it didn't really hold my blank square when I put them together in the lathe so I could turn them all at the same time. What I would recommend doing is make sure you have your lathe good and set up and not so it doesn't wobble, and also put a tenon on the bottom of that lid so it also goes down inside the body of the grinder. It'll stay a lot more stable, and that's what I did on my second one, but the first one ended up all messed up. Anyway, this is my first try, my first time ever really lathing anything, so I'll show you what this piece looks like after I got it off the lathe. Because those two pieces didn't hold together tight, it wobbled pretty bad, and since I don't have a lot of experience on a lathe, I messed it up pretty good, and you'll get to see the improvements I made in the second blank. There it is. That's how crooked that one came out. On to the next. So I'm just going to lay this out here. I got a new block of wood. I was too lazy to make my own, so I went to the store and bought them already cut. So basically I'm measuring where I want the bottom. I don't want the bottom of the grinder to sit on the table, so I want it inset inside the block just a little bit. And then you do have to cut the top side off because of course you need it to spin. And you want to keep your grain lined up. You want to make sure that you keep your top piece and your bottom piece, don't flip them over, so that when you put them together you have a nice continuous grain pattern all the way through the top. So I'm just lining it up and figuring out where I'm going to cut it, and there you go. Now I'm going to cut about 3 or so inches off the top of this. So here we're just going to mark the center. I'm sure there's better ways to do this, but I just do it by finding the corners and drawing an X. This way when we put it in the lathe we can be in the center of the block. At this point it's not super critical that you're exactly center, because when you turn the block round you're going to make it round and then you'll be in the center. So as long as this point stays your center point the entire time through the project, you're going to be good. So I just bought this lathe today. I like it. It's the Rikon lathe. It's a lot better, nicer than the one I bought off Facebook Marketplace. It's got a lot of wobble in it. This one's nice and smooth. Anyway, I'm measuring the chuck so I can figure out how big it is. Like I said, this is like the third thing in my life I've ever lathed. So here we go. So we're just going to find the centers, the X's I made earlier. We're going to turn this thing around, and then we're going to turn a bit of it a little smaller around so it'll fit in the chuck so we can drill the holes that it needs. There's my nemesis, the skew. Now that it's round, I'm going to put the chuck in, and then I'm going to check for center. And then I'll take that point out of the tailstock, I'll put a chuck in there and drill some holes. Right now I'm just going to mark the outside ring. So that's the inside hole diameter of the body of the pepper mill. And I'm just marking it on the top there so I know how far to turn that down. And then I'm going to drill the smaller hole that cap slides into next. So this is also the point where I screwed up. I should have drilled the 7mm through hole that goes all the way through the top right here while it was chucked up. I ended up drilling this one by hand, got it a little bit crooked. On the second one, I drilled it while it was in the lathe. It came out a lot straighter. I recommend. So I'm testing it for fit here, and then I don't know why I keep playing with it, but it is a little loose. That's why I recommend not using it to hold your two pieces together while you're turning the whole pepper mill. Just to be clear, I don't know why I decided to turn these by the end like a bowl. What I did on the second one was I just came in from the side with a parting tool and turned that down to the diameter I wanted it. Instead, I did this, and even when I started on the wrong side. Don't ever start on the upside of the piece you're working on. You'll see what happens. And here you go. Ouch. Didn't really hurt. Like I said, on the second one, I just came in from the side with the parting tool. I turned that down to the diameter I wanted it. It worked out just fine. Don't do it this way. Oh yeah, now I remember why I came in from the bottom there, because I decided I wanted the lid to overlap the top of the pepper mill. But you'll see how skilled I am with this tool right here. And in just a minute, I destroy that plan because I take a big chunk out of the top and I have to turn it down a lot smaller than I wanted to. And here it is. So that's what it looks like when you don't know what you're doing. So now that I've successfully messed up the top, I'm going to do my best to mess up the body of the pepper grinder. Well, this is actually the salt mill. The pepper mill I'm going to make out of mahogany. This is, sycamore, that's what this is. Anyway, so we're going to carve this around real quick. The good news is I'm giving this to my sister, and she has to pretend to like it until she gets it home. So when you drill the holes through this, I did end up having to get an extension to get all the way through, and I had to drill from both ends just because you can't drill all the way into your chuck. And I don't know why it smokes so much. I've never drilled holes using a lathe. Maybe it's not supposed to smoke like this, but the bit was new when I started. So I feel like that's how it's supposed to be. I got the body of the grinder all drilled out and the lid's all cut to at least the rough size I want it. So I'm going to stick those two pieces together, get them in the lathe. I did go get this cone down here to go in the bottom side. That helped a lot. The first time I tried to do it without that and I couldn't hold that piece straight. I wish I had a little bit bigger cone, but this one did work in the end. So I wanted to start by getting the head and the body the same size, then repeatedly mess the head up, so I had to make it smaller and smaller and smaller. But there you go. You can see with the work here, I'm not really good with the lathe, but I'm learning. I should have practiced on cheaper wood to start with. That's what I'd recommend you do. But in the end, these things came out pretty good. And here's what it looks like in the end. I am going to cut the bottom off right about here where I point. And I should have taken the body off and drilled the through hole through the lid for the rod to go up through right here at this stage, but I forgot, so I had to drill it by hand. Came out a little crooked, but like I said, it's for my sister. A little bit of sanding here, and then we'll do our best to make the other one look exactly the same. I'll show you here in just a second. They don't, but they're close. So this one I realized my mistake. I'm going to drill a hole in the top and then we'll put it together. It did come out okay. It fit nice and tight. There was no real shake in it. The grain pattern looks good all the way through the top. So, you know, I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot. The next ones I make will come out a lot better, I think, if I decide to make more. But here you go. If you've never made one of these before, here's a bunch of steps on how not to do it and some things on how to do it, and hopefully this helps. Just make sure you drill that hole on the lathe. It'll come out a lot nicer. the threads of that thing to be right at the top of your top once you get it all put together and fitted, so that you can make, because the top screw is what adjusts the coarseness of your grind. So you want to have full adjustment in it. So you want to be able to screw that thing up and down a little bit. So with it all the way tight, the thread should be all the way up, and then there should be some play to move it down. And here's what they look like in the end. A lot more sanding, getting them cleaned up, and then I put them together. Oh, I did invent this little tool to sand the inside. Just notched that out in my bandsaw, wrapped sandpaper around, stuck it in the notches. I saw it on YouTube. Someone else did it. I didn't invent this actually. But there you go. It worked pretty well. When you set that in, you want it set a little bit, and you do need to get some epoxy to epoxy the bottom in for this kit, because it doesn't have any screws that hold it in the bottom. And then set that screw on the top, and you'll have full adjustment. There's some instructions on the kit that kind of tell you how to do that. It's pretty easy. I just used 2-part epoxy. I got it at Home Depot. Put it in there. Set the piece in there. I didn't wait quite long enough before I started messing with it, so I had to start again. So wait for it to completely set up before you start playing around with it. If in the end you don't have enough movement in the rod to adjust your grind, you can take that rod out. You just remove the 2 screws there in the bottom, and you can cut the rod and shorten it. I used a hacksaw to cut the bottom off. I wish I would have used a grinder, and then put it in a vise or something that supports the rod really well, and peen the bottom over so it'll stay in there. It won't slide in and out anymore. And you'll be all done. So you can see my first attempt there on the left, and the second 2 on the right. They came out pretty good. Good enough for a sister anyway. Thanks for watching.